Okay, thank you so much for coming. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Melissa Mallon, and I am the coordinator of library instruction here at Wichita State University Libraries. And today's workshop is on presenting your research. It's part of our digital literacy workshop series. And today's workshop is really focused on the idea of taking research that you've done, whether it be for a class project, for something that you are working on in your job, something that you've created for the university, and figuring out a way of presenting that information in a visual way. So rather than writing a research paper or even creating a PowerPoint, although that is something similar to what we'll be discussing today, but a way of taking information and data that you've collected and visualizing that for others. So there are a lot of really great tools online that can help you in this method of presenting your research in a visual way, and we're going to highlight some of the different tools that are available today. So in addition to just making your research more accessible and available, there are a lot of other reasons that you may want to visualize or represent your research in an online format. One of those is for a portfolio. So if you've done a lot of work, projects and presentations and papers, and you're wanting to put those online so that you can create a portfolio that can easily be shared with employers, with potential scholarship committees, with for internships, things like that. It's also a really good thing to add to your resume. So rather than having this giant bulky paper resume that you submit to an employer, having a lot of your research online makes it very easy to add that to a resume. You can share it through social media. It's great for networking too, to start making connections within your chosen field. And really, the more traditional method of presenting research is through academic journals. And while that's still a very important way of disseminating information, it can often take a long time for those sorts of papers to be published. So the turnaround time can be a lot longer than you may want. So presenting your research online in whatever format is a really good way to quickly share your research and data that you've collected. It's a good way to get feedback as well. So if you're a student that has done a project and you're maybe looking for some feedback from experts in your major or your field, then sharing that information online is going to be a really great way to do that. So before we jump into the actual tools that are available, I do want to point out that, and we're going to be kind of working on this, or through this portal in today's workshop, but we do have an online research guide through the university libraries that is available for all of these different tools that we're going to talk about. And I'm putting a direct link here into the chat box for that guide. So there is a lot more on the guide than we're actually going to talk about today. There's some links to tips and strategies and things like that. But I do want to highlight a few of the different tools available. Some of the ones that I have used personally and also helped students use that I know they've been successful with. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the research guide here. So here we are on the research guide. And again, the link is in the chat box, and I'll make sure that you have that information. You can access it straight from the library's website. This is freely available for you. So we're going to start in the displaying research section here. And the first thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the idea of posters and presentations. So of course, PowerPoint is a really great way to present research in sort of a succinct manner. It's a little bit more, traditional in terms of presenting your information. But the problem with PowerPoint is that, one, not everybody has that particular software downloaded on their computer. And two, if you have a fairly large PowerPoint presentation, it can be very cumbersome to try to email that, or you have to upload it to a secondary site like Dropbox and then share it that way. So one way to get about doing that is to use a online cloud-based presentation software. So OpenOffice is one option that is available to create these sort of cloud-based presentations. And I will say that all of the tools that I mentioned today and that are listed on this site are freely available. Some of them do have an option where you can pay more and get some additional features, but everything that we talk about you can use for free. So in addition to something like Google, in addition to OpenOffice, one of my other favorite tools is Google Presentation, or this is part of Google Docs. So if you've used any of the Google Doc software, it is very similar to Microsoft Office. They've got a online word processing document type part of this software. There is a spreadsheet, and there are the presentation. It's called Google Presentation, and it's the sort of equivalent to Microsoft PowerPoint. So Google Presentation is great because you can create a traditional slide-based presentation. There's just one thing right after another, just as you're used to with PowerPoint. But it will also let you create a poster. So traditionally, posters that are presented at conferences, or sometimes even as part of capstone classes or something like the undergraduate research forum at Wichita State, those often have to be created in a document that's then printed in a large scale. So it's a physical representation of your research that you will take somewhere and display. Anymore, there are a lot of conferences that are starting to do these online poster sessions, and Google Presentation is an amazing tool to do that with, because you can create that giant single slide that would be the same size as a poster. And these are going to be really good for any kind of synthesis or picking out the most important parts of your data that you want to share with others. The other main benefit of using something like Google Presentation is that it offers group editing. So if you're working on a group project, or you're doing something with some friends, or you're working on a conference presentation with a colleague, then you are able to both edit in real time on these documents, and then they're also easily shared online through email or through social media, and you can also embed them onto websites, blogs, portfolios, things like that. So all you need for creating any kind of Google document is a Gmail account, which is free to create, and it's really very easy to use. The other tool that I like that is similar to a PowerPoint or a slide deck is called Haiku Deck. And this is one that used to be just available for the iPad, but has recently become available as a desktop application, or sorry, not desktop, a software application online. So what this means is that you do not need just a Mac or an iPad to be able to use Haiku Deck. Anyone can use it that has access to the internet. And the reason I like Haiku Deck is because it's very simple to use, and they've got a lot of built-in templates and sort of layouts that you can use, and so much of it is just drag and drop. So for example, if we were wanting to set a background to our presentation here, and it's a little bit chilly outside right now, so I'm going to search for snow, even though it's not snowing yet. So I've got all of these images that come up. They do a search for us, and then all I have to do is drag the image. Once I select it, just click right there, and then it adds it straight to my presentation right there. And so it's very easy, again, to add all of this information. We can just click and put in our text right there. And so it saves it along right here, and if we wanted to add a slide here, maybe I want to keep that same background as the other one. And so I'm going to put that in there. And if you needed to, you can very easily move these around. So it's very, you could put, maybe you're not so much a linear thinker and you just want to get all of your information in there. You can easily do that and then reorganize your slides down at the bottom here. They've also got templates for things like charts. So this is really great if you are presenting any kind of statistics, or maybe you've done a survey or something like that and you want to display the results here. And once you've finished with your presentation, you've got a lot of options for sharing here. You can create a kind of description of your slides here. And then, of course, the social media options are here, Facebook, Twitter. You can also just create a link. You can send it in an email. You can even put it on Pinterest if you want to. I also like that it's integrated very easily with LinkedIn, which is really important if you're trying to build that kind of online digital resume. It will take it straight into your LinkedIn profile, and then you'll have that information there. You can also, if you needed to, you can export your presentation as a PowerPoint if you do need some sort of file that you have to turn in, or a PDF as well. So it gives you a lot of options for sharing and exporting. But this is one of my favorite tools for creating presentations, and it's a lot easier to use now that it's available online and not just on the iPad. So there's some other options here that you may want to check out. Prezi is another great one. We do offer workshops on Prezi in the library, and there's a link here for getting extra help with Prezi if you need it. So one of the other things that I really love for presenting research is an infographic. So an infographic has the benefit of being easily recognizable. So they're used a lot in articles. Maybe you see an article on Mashable or BuzzFeed and it's got an infographic with information. So people recognize them, and they are very easy to create because there are some tools that allow you to do that. So basically they're just, infographic stands for information graphic, and it's again just that visual representation of information, data, or knowledge. And again, this is something that's really great for sort of succinct, synthesized presentations. So there's a few different options here that are available to create infographics. My favorite is this first one on the list. It's called Easly. And let me log in here, and I'll show you a couple examples. Just like with something like HaikuDeck, Easly is a really easy tool to use because it employs the drag and drop mentality, so you don't have to know a lot of advanced coding features or anything like that. It does give you some templates that are available here that you can use to kind of manipulate the information. So for this particular one here, it's kind of pitting females against males. You can just easily drag information in. So for some reason, maybe we want an elephant in there. And then each of these objects are just their own little object here, so you can move things around. If you decide, well, I'm not so sure about that, I'm going to go ahead and hit the trash button and get that out of there. So the themes here is what you can use to actually pick one of these themes, and then they will help you kind of create something from there. So just like with some of the other tools, you can easily download them as a PDF or as an image file. You can also share it with others as well. You can upload your own images here if you want to. One of the things that I have done is actually use an infographic in conjunction with a poster that I created for a presentation. So here is an example of a assessment project that I did, and I created this infographic and then put it on my poster. So I downloaded it as a image file, and then I just added that to my poster, which I created in Google Presentation. So it's a great way, again, of showing that kind of usually numerical information or data that you want to share. So it's going to be a great tool to use, especially if you're using it in conjunction with a couple of other of these tools as well. There are quite a few tools available for creating diagrams and charts. Again, these are something that probably you're going to use in conjunction with another type of tool like HaikuDeck or maybe Google Presentations. And again, these are a really good way of showing relationships between statistics and data that you may have collected in your research. So one of the great tools available for that is one called Glyphly. And they've got all sorts of different kinds of charts that you can create. This is really good for engineering, computer science. They've got flow charts, different diagrams that they have available. Let's look at a couple examples here. So here's a really cool flow chart, that they've created. A vacation decision tree, so you can use it in planning your family vacation if you want to. It's also really good for organizations. If you are in charge of your office or something like that, they've got a SWOT analysis, organizational charts. You can get real specific with it, and again, you can upload your own images and icons and things like that, and these will easily then export into PDF or a image file as well. So a couple other ones that are available there too. Google has their own chart function as well. This one's kind of cool because there's some HTML5 compatibility here. You can really customize some of these charts, and Google is making these so that they are very easily embeddable onto a website or something like that. So if you really need to get into some of that customization, then you may want to check out the Google option as well. So the other kind of display tool that I wanted to talk about is concept maps. So these are pretty similar to some of the other tools that we've talked about, but they're a really good way for organizing your information to show relationships between concepts that you have created. So let's say you're doing research on the Civil War, and you're wanting to look at some of the different kinds of factors that influenced the Civil War. You can create a concept map to kind of graphically and visually display that information. There's lots of different online tools that you can use for that. You've probably seen stuff like this, on paper. Maybe you've used it for planning, outlining a paper or something like that. But there's a lot of different ways that you can use this here for planning. I also like to just use concept maps for planning a presentation. So if I'm going to work on a poster or a slideshow or something like that, then I use it for my kind of outlining brainstorming phase. But again, you could use them to show relationships among the research data that you've collected as well. So lots of great options for that. And then as you're creating some of these different tools, so whether it's a concept map or an infographic, I showed you on Easly and Haiku Deck that you can actually, let's go back into this one here, you can actually upload your own images here if you want to. So they've got a lot of built-in images, but then you can upload images as well. So one of the things that you need to think about when you are doing a presentation, especially if it's for outside of the classroom, if it's something that you're going to be putting on your website or adding to your LinkedIn profile or creating for a work situation, you really are going to need to make sure that you can have images that are not copyrighted. So a lot of times I know that it's very tempting to just do a Google image search and find, just any old image. So let's do snowman this time. So we want a snowman picture. There's a lot of options here, but most of these pictures are actually going to be copyrighted. So they're on someone's website, and you can see that information here when you click on the image. So for the most part, these are going to be copyright protected. But there are ways that you can go about finding images that are free to use. So there is something called Creative Commons. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization, but basically what it does is add licenses to works that will allow you to reuse them in a legal way, basically. So just as this copyright issue applies to images, it also does apply to any kind of media that you might find online, so videos, audio, anything like that. But Creative Commons licenses can be applied to any of these types of audio, pictures, video, whatever it is that you find online. And what it does is it's a license that the creator or the person that has put that picture up or created that video or whatever it is, they can add a Creative Commons license to that work, detailing how exactly it can be used by other people. So the most common thing that you'll see is one of these little images here. Probably the most common one is this little person in a circle, and that means that that particular image, we'll talk about images specifically, but that image needs, you can use it, that's fine, but you do have to provide attribution. So that means you could use the image, that's fine, you put it in your presentation, but just make sure you provide a credit for where you found that image, and I'll kind of show you a little bit about that here in a few minutes. So some of the other licenses within Creative Commons that you may see, no derivative work is a little $ with the X through it. Basically that means that you can use that person's work, their image, but you can't change it in any way. So you can't add a whole bunch of filtering to it, you can't Instagram it, you have to have it exactly as they uploaded it or created it originally. Another option is that you can use the image but not for commercial purposes. So that means anything that you create that you may plan to sell someday, so like let's say you have a t-shirt business or something and you use an image you find online, if it has that little equal sign, you can't ever sell those t-shirts or else you'll be violating the license. Anything that you do in class or usually even within your professional constraints is probably going to be non-commercial, but just to make sure, you want to watch out for that. Another option is the share alike feature, which is the backward C, which means you can change up the work if you want to, but just you have to keep the same license that was originally there. So if you change it and the original image had maybe the non-commercial license, then you need to keep that with yours. So there's links here if you want to find out more information about Creative Commons. But there are some tools available that will actually help you find Creative Commons images, and one of those is actually through Google Images. So when you're doing an image search here, just go ahead and do your search like normal. And then under under Search Tools, if you click that, then that's going to give you a little drop-down box here, and there's a menu for usage rights. So I'm going to click there, and it lets me filter out these images in different ways. So right now we're looking at images that are not filtered by any kind of license. So some of them, again, could be copyrighted, probably are. I could look for images that allow me to modify them. I could look for ones that just the basic are allowed to be reused. There's a non-commercial reuse and then non-commercial reuse with modification, which is probably one of the most freely usable licenses there. So if I just look at labeled for reuse, you can see that there's still a ton of images here available, but there are, we know now that we've filtered out the ones that are copyrighted. And then when you click on the image there, again, you're going to get some information here about the image. I would recommend clicking on Visit Page, because then that's going to take you to the original source, and if you need to provide that attribution, which most often you probably do, this is going to give you the information on doing that. So this one took us to a site called Wikimedia Commons, which actually is one of the tools, the search engines that I have listed here for you to use. But if we scroll down to the bottom of this page, it shows us that this is a Creative Commons image, and we can share this work, we can adapt it if we want to, but we do have to give attribution to it. And so the great thing about this is that it's got all of the attribution information that you need here in the little description area here. So here's our author, and then we can, of course, just download the image from up here. So make sure you keep in mind that there is that usually the attribution issue. Even if it's available, Creative Commons, you probably still are going to have to give credit for it. Couple other ones available here. The one I really like, it's probably my favorite to use, is one called CompFight. This one I love because it has it's basically a keyword search for all of these different images, and I usually spend probably way too much time looking for images for my presentations. I just think it's fun, especially when you're searching for keywords and then you try to kind of find something that actually looks, relevant to what you need. You can find some stuff usually that you maybe had not thought of before. But when you do your search here, just make sure on the left side of the page you click that Creative Commons link, and then that's going to filter out anything that's not Creative Commons. So this one's also great. Let's see, let's pick this little army of snowmen here. So when we click on the image there, it's going to again give us the different image sizes, which is really helpful depending on what kind of presentation you're creating. I usually would recommend that you do the original image. That's going to be probably the biggest file. That means it's also higher resolution and going to be a clearer picture, especially if you're putting it on a poster, something like that. So it's got that there. You can look at the license agreement if you want to find, the specific information. So this one, we have to attribute it, and then we cannot use it for commercial purposes. And then I like this one too because it gives you the HTML for the photo credit here. So that's really easy to then put in your blog, on your presentations, things like that. And it's already sort of formatted for the online environment. So just keep that in mind as you're going through some of these images and trying to find some kind of freely available, more legal images to use. There's also some links on here for audio and music and things like that. So the last thing to talk about, once you've created your presentation or your research in sort of one of these image or presentation softwares, and you've added some images and all of that, then it's time to think about sharing that research. So I showed you already with a few of these different tools some of the ways that you can share the images and your presentations fairly easily. Of course, there's the social media options that you usually see attached to pretty much all of the different tools that are available. LinkedIn is going to be a great option for any kind of professional sort of a little bit less personal and a little bit more reliable sharing for social media. But of course, Twitter and Facebook are options as well. If you're in academics at all, I would highly recommend signing up for academia.edu. This is a sort of professional, educational, academic social network, and it does allow you to upload presentations and different types of files, and it's a really good way to get your research out there. It does also allow you to link to more traditional academic journal articles, conference presentations, conference proceedings, all really great for getting your name out there, making your work more visible, and then also starting to connect with others in your field. And so there's some other academic tools here as well, Researcher ID. I would highly recommend looking into those if you're a graduate student or you're wanting to go to grad school and start connecting with some of those people in your field. There's some presentation tools available. One that I really like is this present.me. And this tool is very cool because it will allow you to upload a PowerPoint or some other type of slideshow that you've created, and then it actually lets you record yourself right by it talking about your slides. So maybe you've done a class presentation, but then you want to have that available for an employer or to put on a portfolio or something like that. Uploading the presentation and then talking right next to it is going to be a really cool way of providing that sort of personal touch to your presentation. But then also, because one of the main sort of benefits or suggestions, best practices, I guess, for creating slideshows is that they aren't full of text. This is a really good way to have you help kind of present that information, fill in the blanks, and so it's personal and you're not overloading your slides with too much text. So that's kind of a cool way to do that as well. And then, of course, I've sort of mentioned e-portfolios or portfolios throughout the workshop today, but this is a really great way to sort of combine everything you've done. And so if you've done a lot of research projects for different classes and you've done presentations and you have data that you've collected for several different projects, an online portfolio is going to be a really great way for you to compile all that information together, and then you can easily share that with others. So whether it be a employer, you know, you're working on your annual review and you want to share this information with your boss, or you're applying for graduate school or a scholarship or something like that, having an e-portfolio where everything is in the same place rather than sending a link to Haiku Deck and to your infographic and to the concept map you created, you can put those all together on an e-portfolio. And so there's a couple options here. Wix is a really nice site. It's almost like a website creation tool, and it's very easy to use for portfolios or for resumes. They do kind of give you some templates down here if you kind of have some ideas. A lot of artists will use it for their artist websites. But it's very easy because you do not have to know any coding, and it is really that same drag and drop type format that we've seen already in some of these other tools, and it makes a very professional looking website. So I would definitely recommend looking into something like that if you do have a lot of this that you're wanting to put together. So again, there's a lot more resources on here than we really had time to go into today, but you can absolutely take a look at some of these a little bit later. That link is in the chat box again. And if you have any questions at all, you can definitely stop by the library for help. You can contact me. My email is just melissa.mallon@wichita.edu. If you need a little bit of extra assistance using any of these sites, I'd be more than happy to talk you through it. And I wish you all the best of luck in working on presenting your research. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Thanks.